Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Jank Diver Gaming YouTube channel. We heard you liked the Skyfisher tier list that Teld and Daneelius put together a couple weeks ago, so I invited them both on to talk about another tier list. We were brainstorming the type of things that would make for a good tier list, and we landed on the MDFCs, including all the original ones from Zendikar Rising, plus the really awesome two-color ones and some of the bolt lands or whatever you call them from Modern Horizons 2. And we also decided to throw on the Lord of the Rings guys who have now disappeared, it seems. They were here a second ago. But yeah, Daneelius, hello, how are y'all doing today? We're going to record a little tier list together. We're going to argue maybe about some MDFCs.
People demand more tier lists.
Yeah,
gotta give it to him.
Yeah, and if you're watching this and you're a Peasant Cube enthusiast, like feel free to let us know what kind of tier list you would like to see. We were brainstorming some ideas like Blood Artists and Tormented Voices and stuff like that. So MDFCs, do we want to very briefly talk about like the role of MDFCs in Peasant Cube, or do we just want to assume people know how good MDFCs are? Do you have any thoughts about MDFCs as a card type in general before we start ranking all of these cards as S tier?
I mean, they're some of my absolute favorite cards in Peasant. They do, that super sweet role of being able to play a 20 land deck that actually has 25 spells in it. So it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's some consideration with MDFCs around like how often is it going to be cast as a spell versus used as a land, and thinking about kind of deck construction, considering them, and there's certainly like an upper limit to the number of tap lands that I really want to run these days, like 3 or 4 kind of max. So there's some consideration you have to put outside just the what's printed on the card, but they're very cool.
Sure, and I don't know if you still have it up, Teld, but we should give credit to the maker of this. I guess it's at Krusty Boy on X or Twitter if you want to give them a shout out. They made this tier list. We didn't put it together ourselves. We just copied it and added the Lord of the Rings card. So credit where credit is due.
Yeah, appreciate you saving us 20 minutes of work.
Yeah. And Teld, I believe Teld is going to do some editing on this and should be able to throw up actual card images so you're not just looking at these little grainy things. But yeah, let's get into this. And we're starting off with now. Unfortunately, Teld can't do this for me right now, so I've got to kind of remember the names or look them up. I think this thing is called Blackbloom Rogue.
It is. Yeah, it is.
And it's 2 and a black for a 2/3 with Menace. It gets +3/+0 if your opponent has 8 cards in the graveyard or more than that. Daneelius, am I wrong that I've seen this in your Peasant Cube or either now or like at a previous time?
I think in the very earliest iterations, I had it because back in Zendikar Rising, this is my recollection at least, that this was the top performing MDFC in like the 17 lands data. And I think the reasoning was, unlike the others, this was the MDFC you're most likely to just play as the creature, and it was like a plus creature in play because one of the themes of that set was milling your opponent, I believe. I'm trying to recall. So anyways, I think it performed well in its retail set. That made me interested in trying it. The problem is it's just as a cube card, who's taking it? Like, nobody's excited about this, even if I do think it's a solid card.
Yeah, and we should kind of spell out exactly what we're thinking about. So basically, S is top tier, and D is going to be like unplayable, and F is basically I guess these go in F tier. F is the unrankable stuff because it's the rares that were included on here already, and we're only talking about the Peasant Cube stuff. So and then whatever we want to call in between, like A are the like great cards that you probably wouldn't first pick.
Yeah.
First pickable. I don't know what your guys' categorization for the core Skyfisher stuff.
Yeah, B is like playable,
dead,
or
average.
Good, and C is like it.
Needs
probably
needs help.
Yeah, needs help. Sure, meh.
Yeah.
I think Blackbloom Rogue, I think it's important to recognize there was a several-year gap between the first batch of MDFCs and the second batch, and the amount of power creep Magic experienced in that time period was pretty unprecedented. And Blackbloom Rogue is unfortunately a victim of circumstance here in that I think it was totally fine when it came out, and it very quickly went to not that. Like, I don't think this card's embarrassing entirely if you've got black aggressive strategies in your cube that can sometimes make it active. But I don't think you would want to be playing this in most of your cubes.
Sure. So it's like not unplayable. It's like maybe,
I like the C grade. Yeah.
Maybe the definition of a C here. Bogart Trawler, 2 and a black for a 3/1. When it enters, exile, I think, target opponent's graveyard or each opponent's graveyard. Exile an opponent's graveyard, I don't know. And this is one of the bolt lands. The bolt lands are kind of like naturally just a tier above most of the other stuff. We added this to our Peasant Cube very recently just to kind of give another tool against some graveyard stuff. I don't think it's an impressive card. You're not happy to play it on either end unless you're hosing a graveyard deck, but so many of our decks use the graveyard. Even the ones that aren't like build as graveyard decks still find ways to use their graveyard quite a bit. So it has utility. I still don't know if it's not like a top tier card at all. Yeah. You're never going to first pick it. So I would have this like just I think a dead average for me.
I think B is appropriate. It blows out some decks. It's a serviceable creature, but we've mentioned before the woes of 1 toughness creatures, and has 1 toughness.
Mm-hmm. And it's way better as a sideboard card even than as a main deck card. But it's I like it to be. There's definitely I would never be surprised to see this in a cube.
Sure. Fell the Profane. Here's one I haven't checked in with anybody on in a long time. I was kind of like poo-pooing the card a little bit. I thought it was just like a tier below where everybody else seemed to think it was when it was previewed, but it's a fine card. So 2 black, instant, destroy target creature, I believe, or planeswalker, and then again it's a bolt land, so you can pay the 3 life to have it come in untapped. Where are you guys at on this one after having it for a little over a year now?
It's okay. I mean, I'm definitely lower on it than I was. I always thought that the 4 mana side was a little expensive, but it was pretty free. That being said, having to pay 3 life sometimes is not free, and 4 mana these days in Peasant for removal spells, a ton for no upside. I think it's hard for it to be below B, but I also would say it probably can't get above A into that top tier of the actually really, really broken ones. I think I'd have this either A or B, probably leaning towards B.
It's definitely in here somewhere. Where would you put it?
Yeah, I think I'd have it at A. I think there's basically no black deck that isn't very happy to have it, and I think that to me, just kind of definitionally, I would call that an A. Versus like a Bogart Trawler, which is like nice to have. In some situations, it'll be good. There's like not a situation where Fell isn't at least useful in the fact that it's a boat land. Yeah. It's just like I can't imagine ever cutting it from any black deck, even if I had some tap lands already.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like what we've defined an A as. Like I don't think I'm ever seeing this pack and seeing this in a pack early and getting excited, but I'm also never cutting it. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So I guess there's a little differentiation there on like. The power level of the card is not like A, S tier, but like in terms of you can always put it in your deck and it'll always have a function. Probably pulls it up to A tier. I know that's 2 different things, but that's how talking about Magic cards goes. Malakir Rebirth. This is one of those scam effects. So black for an instant. If the targeted creature dies, it comes back into play. Probably tapped. I'm not sure. And you lose 2 life on this one, I believe, right?
You do. Okay, so I'm gonna come with my first hot take. Can we throw this straight into S tier? It's
S?
constructed.
I was gonna go
playable.
A.
Hold on. Constructed playable Commander All-Star card's got like a $10 price tag on it.
Peasant Cube, but in the context of Peasant Cube.
Yeah, I think this card's great. Card's amazing.
S seems
it's 1 mana.
Aggressive
it's
to
one,
me.
It's 1 mana. It costs 1 mana.
So does Supernatural Stamina, which obviously is like the power of MDFCs. Is they give you the land, right?
This is like in line. It used to be just straight up in line with these effects, but it's not notably below the bar on most of these effects. It's a little below the one that doesn't cost you life and gives you a roll token or whatever. I think I'd settle for A, but like I'd be real tempted to put this in S tier. This all modern play.
S, because of grief.
Yeah, I'd be more in the B range for this, just because I think that one of the differences between Rebirth and other MDFCs is like when you're thinking about your opening hand and how your cards are going to get played out, or if you draw it early, like a lot of the other MDFCs, it becomes like a much easier decision of do I need this land or not? And if you don't need the land, you're going to be able to get that value kind of on curve, like not having to just let the card rot in your hand until you maybe can get value from it. And just Rebirth can be a very powerful effect. I agree, but I don't think it's as easy to get the value from, and it's difficult. It's a card that's harder to decide how you're going to use it when you're trying to sculpt out like the first 4 or 5 turns of the game. So I just think it's beneath some of the cards that are just like always good, basically, and like very easy to see how you're going to get the value from them. Whereas Rebirth needs some things to happen. It's a good card, but I would put it like above Trawler, but below Fell.
Okay, so can I meet you all in the middle at A? Because I think S is aggressive for a card that like often gets slotted out for other cards in cubes, but I think B is probably maybe underselling like how
Yeah,
good
right.
the card is as an MDFC, like letting you slot this sort of card in, because you don't like play supernatural stamina in cube or anything like that. But there's a lot of times where that sort of effect, like the good versions of that effect, are actually very, very good.
Yeah, I'll settle for A. I think A is probably appropriate. I think S is me just really liking the card.
Sure, and I don't know. Well, I'll work
I
with the
think you
nitty
do
gritty
put it
there.
below Fell. Fell is going to make more cubes. If we're looking at it strictly from a peasant cube and we're ignoring other things, Fell is going to make like every peasant cube for the rest of time, and it's going to make every deck that it's drafted in for the rest of time. And Malakir Rebirth may or may not make those depending on the size of the cube and the design goals.
Sure, and sorry to the viewers who have to keep watching me like pull up my thing. I get nervous that like I clicked the wrong button or something. Pelakka Predation, 2 and a black. Look at opponent's hand and take a card with mana value 3 or greater. This is actually just a test to see if I remember all the MDFCs they printed. This is basically unless someone disagrees, like the spell equivalent of Blackbloom Rogue. It's just like whatever. Like it's not unplayable. It'll probably
worse
I
because
think I would say it's worse. It doesn't work.
worse, yeah.
Dude, would you say unplayable though?
Yeah, I'd say the
Yeah,
top
I'd
of the
say
unplayable. I think it's
unplayable.
better
Okay.
than the other cards that we put in the unplayable tier.
Yes.
But
yes.
I don't think it's good. I don't think it's something
And
you ever.
it'll miss. Like it can miss even when they have cards in hand.
Yeah.
It's just like I don't know.
And it's a
I
3
would
mana
be
discard spell. Even when it works, it's whatever.
I also think there's the cube equity discussion of like, I would be very confused how we fit 5 MDFCs in our cube, because if you put this card in your cube over one of those other 4, I'm going to be real confused.
If I saw that, I'd be like, you're intentionally lowering the power level, and there's some kind of a discard theme, maybe in black or something like that.
Yeah. We got to have some serious reasons for that.
All right, I'm not gonna try to argue up to C on this card. It's not good. Balaged Recovery, 2 and a green. Return a permanent from your graveyard to your hand. And I'll just to say my piece on this card, I used to think this card was awesome, and it was at a time where we didn't have things like Eternal Witness, and a lot of the recursion effects were kind of medium, but they have really pushed those recursion effects over the last few years with things like Beneath the Skin and that we have Eternal Witness now and stuff like that. So I think this card, like when I read it in a vacuum, I'm like, you know what, this is still pretty fine as like maybe a B high C range card, but it has definitely been power crept out even as an MDFC.
Yeah, if you'd asked me when this card was printed, I would have probably killed you like A. At the moment, I think it is fringe C D tier. It's one of the two. I would be very confused to see it in a cube over the other quite good green MDFCs we have access to. I guess there's not that many, but there are a couple of good ones. So
Well,
I would be a little.
It is played in vintage cubes. That's something to keep in mind. But I think obviously there's reasons why it's going to be better in vintage cube than it is in
It's better than
cube.
Pelakka Predation. It's better than Pelakka Predation. So
I'm tempted to go like I think it still has an effect better than Blackbloom Rogue too. I would put it in C.
Yeah,
here.
I agree
Like,
with that.
Okay, sure, yeah.
I don't think it's embarrassing to have this card. I just think there's so many better versions of the card.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Okay, Bridgeworks Battle is one of the ones I want to throw in S tier because
Straight to S, straight to the top.
I think like especially in comparison to Fell the Profane, like Savage Beating is a fine card that you don't, or is it Savage Smash, the green red thing that does the same exact thing, +2/+2, fight a creature. I think that's a perfectly fine, actually good fight spell / removal spell that you just don't play because it's a gold card and you're not going to use a gold slot on a fight spell like that. But like getting to sneak this into all of your green decks for free, I think is just very good. This is what I want the removal MDFCs to look like, or real magic cards that have strong effects, but they're also just lands. And this is a bolt land too, which is kind of huge.
Yeah, this is a good MDFC in the mainline cube too. Like this is just a card that scales up. It pushes damage. It removes a creature. Just great card.
I'm ready for Daneelius to tell me it's B range.
I have this as like a D. No, I'm just kidding. I think it's I think it's S. I think it's very bottom of S. I think it's like the lowest of the S's we're going to talk about. But I did think it's S.
All right. Tangled Florahedron. People lost their minds about this card when it came out. So many arguments over whether this card was good or not. This is just a mana dork. It's 1 and a green for a 1/1 that taps for green. You can play it as a tapped green source on the back. I remember playing this when our mana dork options were very limited, and I don't think I've ever gone back to it. The only reason I would is if I felt like I was trying to bolster some sort of landfall thing and wanted more MDFCs.
Never has the scam of mana rocks and mana dorks been made more palpable. It is a land drop that you have to pay mana for.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's like a C, bottom of C. It's like unless you have, I don't know, mana dork synergies of some kind, like maybe top of D, but I think there's
a D. I think this card is stone unplayable. It's a bad land and a bad dork. Like,
Yeah,
if you want a dork, just bite the bullet. Like, the problem with this as an MDFC is like, you want a dork early game, but you want your lands to come into play untapped. You want to play your MDFCs tapped early while you don't need to curve out. This card just doesn't do anything that you want it to do unless you play it exactly on turn 2 as a mana dork. And like,
also just like ramping to 4 isn't as big of a deal anymore. It's like I just don't even care that much about mana dorks at all unless they have some serious upside on them. And this one, and it's
this doesn't become a 4/4. This doesn't put +1 counters on things. Like, don't care.
Yeah,
put it in D.
I'm gonna put it in C actually, and part of the reason for C, unless you both are on D here, is I don't think 2 mana, unlike what was I just saying? Oh, unlike the recursion effects, I don't think 2 mana dorks have actually like significantly gone ahead of this card over the last few years. Like, we're still on things like reclusive taxidermist.
It's a 4/4. It's a 4/4.
It's still not a good. It's not a great card though. It's just whatever. It's just
but like, ask yourself truly. Do you actually think this card is on the same level as Balaged Recovery? And if
I do.
If you legitimately think that, then we could throw it there. But I would put this in D. It would be the top of D, but I would put it in D.
Okay, well,
I don't think it's that different than Blackbloom Rogue, I guess is what I'm saying. It's like I think those are similar cards that if I saw it in the cube, I'd be like, okay, you're trying to intentionally depower, but it does something. I disagree that it doesn't do stone nothing, but it's
hate this card so much.
Low C trending towards D. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, fine.
Disciple of Freyalise. This is 6 mana with triple green, 3/3. When it enters, you can sack another creature to gain life and draw cards equal to its power? Question mark. These tiny little images.
Creature gain X, where X is the creature's power. Yeah, you gain X, draw X. I really like this card, but I'm not going to pretend it's good.
I was pretty disappointed with it when we played it. I think we got to see someone like, why do I if I have my big creature on board, why do I want to sacrifice it? Was my thing, unless it was underneath some sort of weird pacifism aura, which
because you're trying to get your sprouting Thrynax to make 3/1 tokens.
So I
think maybe this is a hot take, but I think this is worse than Tangled Florahedron. I think there's
I agree.
I think this is actually like a straight up.
It might be, but the land coming into play untapped is pulling enough weight for me to not. I don't think you could put any of these bolt lands into D tier because they, at minimum, they can come into play untapped. And I think that gets it into C tier. But if you wanted to put it below Florahedron right next to it, I don't think either of them are cards that I like. Yeah.
It's here somewhere. Like, this is kind of a category of cards all itself. But yeah, this was a huge disappointment.
I'd say if this sacked off mana value, I think it would actually be really sweet. I mean, I know why it doesn't, but like, I think if it did mana value, that'd be cool because then you could at least cash in like your 2 mana mana dorks for 2 cards and 2 life in the mid game.
Sure.
I think the ideal scenario is you're sacrificing like a timeline color. That's hilarious because this is triple green and that's a heavy black. Yeah. I guess like really the 1 mana 2/1 that can return itself from the graveyard. That's like the ideal scenario. But so many other scenarios are just is a 6 mana 3/3 that you don't even want to sack anything, and that makes it like a Coom Warrior that has the bolt land on the back instead of always coming into play tapped. So that's something.
I think this is a rare case for me of them missing the mark on the mana value. I think they could have done 3 green with the current effect and it would have been fine. Like, at least then it would be 5 mana 3/3 that did something potentially. Yeah, disappointing card because I really like the design.
County Ambush. This is just straight up 2 and a green instant target creature fights another target creature.
Can we put a card in D tier for being almost strictly worse version of an existing card if that card's in S tier?
No, because if you might want to intentionally depower your cube by running this instead of battle. I think that's pretty fair.
So C tier, like you're never playing this over Bridgeworks battle for power level reasons, but you're also unless you're intentionally depowering your cube, it's not making.
I put it at top of C or even bottom of B. Like if you just wanted to play like 4 MDFCs with 3 per color, it's like. I'm gonna run this. I would run Ambush over Balaged personally, but
actually I probably would as well. I think the fight spell being on a land is more important than the recursion effect because we get them on so many good creatures.
I would have it flip flop, but I would have these like kind of in the same exact spot, not really like I don't know. If I saw them in a pack together, I would take Recovery over Ambush most time, but whatever. Hopefully I don't see them in a pack
either of you don't
together.
put the next card in D tier, we might have a problem.
Look, if I'm specifically going, okay, no, hold on. This is just
this is a C tier card. It's a C tier card because
we're going to talk about the green black card, right? Like that's just this card.
But this has got to be C because like if you have intense +1/+1 counter synergies, then it's totally reasonable. I feel like.
We don't encourage that. We should stop doing +1. Stop doing +1/+1 counter stuff. I know that. I hope that was a joke. I think that's a joke. D tier. In fact, it's probably. It can win in combat. We'll put it above Zolf consumption. Kazul's Fury, I don't actually think this card is terrible, but it's still just cube equity. This is the Fling. 2 and a red, additional cost, sack a creature, deal damage equal to its power to any target.
I think I would be willing, and I know this is going to be my next hot take of the video, I would be willing to go as high as B tier with this. I think it's a C tier card. But the reason I would go as high as B is that I think if you want to put a legitimate fling, like you want to have a card that cares about throwing based on power at your opponent's face, this is the one. All the rest of them are pretty unplayable unless you consider Heartfire Club or Improvised Club, whatever the card is called, the sack a creature, deal 4. But if you actually care about throwing your 8/8 mouse at somebody, this is the way you do it.
Yeah,
I don't know if that gets it to B, but I feel similarly about this as I do Colony Ambush. It's like bottom of B, top of C. You know, it wouldn't shock me to see these in cubes.
I would also put it bottom of B because it's a card that can end a game. Which you could make that argument for a lot of different things, but flings will end games. Flings just generally aren't good. But having the buyout of like I don't actually have to put fling in my deck, and sometimes I get fling, I think it's fine. You would never. I don't think you would ever put this into your cube unless you really like wanted that effect, and then even then you might play the red black adventure guy with the fling on the adventure, but still. Yeah,
the modality here is carrying an immeasurable amount of weight.
Yep. Okay, Pinnacle Monk, 2 red for 2/2 prowess. When it enters, get an instant or sorcery from your graveyard back to your hand. This is really just, is it S or A?
Yeah, this is a version. This is a card that we played in blue that we played the actual just 5 mana version of for a long while. But you get a land on the back of it, and it's a good land. I think this is top of A or bottom of S. I want to say top of A because I don't think it's as good as Bridgeworks Battle. I think like when I look at it in a pack, if I see Bridgeworks Battle or a couple of the ones that I'm going to want to put in S tier later, I do think it's a notch below those cards.
Where are you at?
I'd have it a notch below Fell. I think like Fell to me is kind of like the baseline.
Sure, yeah.
You know, always played no matter what. And there are decks that wouldn't care that much about Pinnacle Monk or wouldn't be able to do much with it.
Yes.
And so I think yeah, kind of mid bottom is fine. Yeah.
Okay, that looks perfect to me actually. Song Mad Treachery, that's just a no, right? That's the 5 mana.
Maddest I've ever been that a card costs 5 mana. Why could this not cost 4 mana?
Even if you're on infinite free sack outlets, it still sucks. They're just better active treasons. Is this like Zolf consumption level of like unplayable?
I think it's below. I think it's below only because it makes me mad. I was mad that it cost 5 mana at the time, and half a decade of power creep has not made that opinion any different.
This one was always bad. Spikefield Hazard, red, instant, 1 damage to any target. If a creature dies that was dealt damage, it's exiled.
B tier, I think. Like I see this card in cubes a lot. I don't think it's super good, but we've talked about 1 damage being pretty relevant. I think this card, kills enough relevant creatures that it's not embarrassing. I just think it's a situation of how are we fitting it into most cubes. If you wanted to say up with Colony Ambush because we put like situational removal spells there, I'm fine with that. But I could see it going as high as B tier because like picking off a Rosie Cotton or a Blood Artist is pretty relevant.
Yeah, I'd say like bottom of B, top of C, similar to Fury and Ambush and Recovery. It's kind of in that range for me of like, again, would not be shocked to see it in a cube. Limited use cases these days, but I agree that 1 toughness removal is good. But one of the reasons 1 toughness removal is good is because of like go wide and like making a bunch of bodies, and having to spend your card to kill a 1/1 token is like, that doesn't feel great. You're really hoping to see a Mystic or a Messenger or a mouse on turn 1 or something like that.
Yeah, I think this card was a lot better before Playful Shove was printed too, because Playful Shove just cycling makes that card's buyout even better than this one's buyout, despite paying a little more mana.
Yeah. Do we like just the middle of the average here? Like,
I think I like it less than Kazul's Fury because Kazul's Fury is doing something unique and interesting.
Actually, this should be worse than like. Fortification just counters this card, so it should be worse. We'll give the nod to the Fury here because that's an effect that your deck normally won't have. That I guess you get for free, quote unquote free. Whereas this is you probably have better versions of this effect in your deck or in your cube.
All right.
Okay. Sundering Eruption. Daneelius, you're the champion of this card.
Top S, think it's the best MDFC in Cube. Think it's just one of the best cards in Cube, period. It is ridiculously powerful. It ends games, and it's unique. There's very few, few falter effects that are actually worth running in Cube at all, and so it's, very, very strong.
Daneelius pointed out something to me that has changed, that kind of settled. Like, it's where I land on this card, is that the difference between this card and literally any other draw in your deck when you need it as a spell is like the biggest delta in Cube, on top of just being a regular land. A good percentage of the time, like, this card's incredible. I think it's better than Bridgeworks Battle. I think like
I can't do that.
The situations that come up aren't quite as often. Like, Bridgeworks Battle is more generically playable, but like when you need Sundering Eruption, there is no card in Cube that you're gonna get that does what Sundering
this
Eruption
card
does.
just
also
you cast this card more often and will lead to you casting this card will lead to you winning more games than you casting this card. It's just this card will win you games that other cards can't. So
yeah, but I think that's kind of the point to me, is like, out of the land that you get to put in your deck, the fact that it wins so many games that no other card in your deck can win is why it's the best. Yeah. But there's also more that you can do with this card, by the way. It isn't just a falter. It's a way to ramp if you're playing artifact lands. It's a way to get landfall triggers for your Tanook or for your social engineering or whatever. Like, I think that this card is not just a thing that you're hoping to draw when you have a full board and you're going to alpha them. Like, there's more utility to this card now than there ever's been, and I already thought it was the best MDFC in Cube.
I think you guys are crazy to say this is better than Bridgeworks Battle.
Like, it's a 2-1 vote, Tim.
No, it is 2-1, so it has to go S. It has to go S. But I don't know. Watch the number of games where this card sits in someone's hand and does nothing. And if it was like literally anything else interactive, it has bad games as much as it has games where it wins. Like, I think that averages out to not an insane card, but I agree it belongs in S tier. It's just not better than the primo removal.
Here's how I put it, is that like, when this goes into a cube, once this is in the cube, this is now a card that my aggro red decks want, regardless of whether it's a land or not. There's no other MDFC you can say that about. As in, like, it's not like a green deck is taking Bridgework Battles over another card. It can't do what this card can do. This card can do something that no other card can do. And so it's just a card I actively want, even if I'm not running it as a land. And I just think that makes it unique.
Yeah, I'm not giving points to unique here. Like, I mean,
I'm saying no. I'm saying it's unique because it's a card I want, regardless of the fact that it's an MDFC, and there's no other card like that.
Sure.
Yeah, he's saying he would literally just put the card with no back half Sundering Eruption
yes, exactly.
into his cube. Yeah,
exactly. In my deck, I'm saying I definitely put it in my deck once it's in the cube. There's no other falter effects. Red aggro decks really want that falter effect. So even if once it's in the cube, I'm drafting, and you're like, oh, by the way, stipulation for this draft, you can't play this as a land, I still would take it.
All right, the more you talk about it, the farther down it goes. Okay, we're top of S. This is going to be the best MDFC by the end of the thing, because
my opinion,
is unbeatable. I would, if it were just me here, I'd have it in like A tier, because I think there are enough games where it's actually like, you probably lost the game some amount of the time because you drew this instead of anything else. But if it's replacing a mountain, that's not even necessarily true. So
I was gonna say, how many games are you losing drawing your falter effect over your mountain?
I don't know. People cut lands to play MDFCs, so it's not 1-1. But
that's true.
It's close. Valaka Awakening. Just to a note to the paper players out there, this was uncommon in Pioneer Masters, which was an arena only set. So that's why we're talking about it here. We do have access to it in our Peasant cubes. This is the 2 in a red.
Prevent this, you cowards.
Put any number of cards from your hand on the bottom of your library and draw that many +1. So I think this card is cool. I don't really know what the use for it is outside of, like, maybe if you have draw synergy. So I'm tempted to say it's like actually D, because, like, what are you doing with it?
I'm tempted to agree. I think it probably should be C tier, just because there's something surely you can do with it that's cool. But I also don't really think there's anything you're doing with this card that's relevant.
Yeah, like how often is this even better than like the average tormenting voice with upside? You know, like how often are you ditching like 2, 3, 4 cards to the bottom and refueling your whole hand or something like that? Probably.
I think the best case scenario for it is like instant speed, using it on your opponent's turn to activate your messenger or your mystic or something like that. I think that's like the ideal scenario, but it's not. It doesn't have like super wide playability. I still think that's enough that at least C. It's way better to me than like Tangled Florahedron. I could, like, to me this is more of a card closer to Balagate Recovery, where if I saw this in a cube, I wouldn't be surprised. Where if I saw like Blackbloom Rogue in a cube, I'd be like, "What's this doing here?" You know?
Sure. I would want to like ask like, what is this card for?
Agreed. I have some questions. Yeah.
Baying Veil, getting into the blue ones. 1 in a blue instant. All creatures your opponents control get -2/-0, or maybe attacking creatures get -2/-0. I
I
guess
like this, but man, Blue has so many good MDFCs.
Yeah, I don't know about this.
I don't like this. I don't like this.
You would just never use a cube slot on this. Is my problem. Like,
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, although it would be really funny when your opponent casts heroic reinforcements and alpha you, and then you bane build them. But yeah,
it can save you. So it's like top of D, but like whatever. I was so disappointed by this
I'm
guy.
so mad at this card. Yeah,
Hydroelectric Specimen, 2 and a blue, flash 1/4 when it enters. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I got this wrong multiple times. It redirects only instants and sorceries that target a single thing to itself. I thought it could redirect anything like the Mizium Meddler guy that this was based off of, but it's only instants and sorceries and only single target, which I was very disappointed by. That said, it's still not an embarrassing card. It is a 1/4 flash for 3 that you're getting off of your island or whatever. So, and it is a bolt land as well. It is a bolt land.
Yeah, definitely better than everything below like Balaged Recovery, but it's not good.
The fact that it's a bolt land,
B range.
If you want to put it into B, I
think like bottom of or somewhere around bottom of B. I think it's a bolt land and it's a creature with stats. It's like it's got to be something.
I think the spell effect is worse than the very top of C tier, but yeah, Bolt Land doing a lot of heavy lifting here.
Mm-hmm. Jawari Disruption to me is an F, like a hard F, but man, people love this card. 1 in a blue,
love that card.
Instant, counter target spell unless its controller pays 1 mana. This is not a Bolt Land, comes in tap. My problem is the decks that want this like really get hurt by the tap land on the back and have to just play it out as a tap land often enough, but like if you counter something, it's fine. I mean, Force Spike for 2 mana. I don't know.
This one is similar. This one's similar to what was the other one we were talking about where it's kind of awkward how you deploy this card. It's like if you hold it too long, then it doesn't do anything, and then you kind of have to play it as land, but it's tapped.
Yeah.
I think there's like some real play pattern issues with this card.
Yeah. If only there was a card that was also bad, but you could instead draw and trigger your mischievous mystic effects instead of playing it as a land.
It's probably better than Blackbloom Rogue. Like you can catch a 4-drop or something with it, then it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, since Censor's bad, this is worse. I think this card is really a trap card.
People still ask us to play this in the mainline cube sometimes. I'm like, no, thank you. Selendi Vision, 2 and a blue, instant. Look at the top 6. Put an instant or sorcery in your hand. I think I played this card.
I love this card.
I put this in a commander deck.
Yeah, this is in one of my commander decks as well. That being said, for Peasant Cube, it's not the best.
It's screaming like Balaged Recovery to me. Just 3 mana, replace itself with something else, but like you have so many better versions of what these are doing. The one thing I do like about this is in the if you are playing some sort of spells matters deck, it does let you kind of chain spells together.
Yeah,
just
I agree
like
with
any
that.
other draw spell.
I do think I would put this ahead of Balaged Recovery because it can be fired off on turn 3 without a target, and you can still hit with it. Like Balaged Recovery, not that it comes up a lot, but if you don't have anything to do for 3 mana, you can at least spin your wheels with the Selendi Vision.
Mm-hmm. It's not a great way to spend 3 mana, but it is a way to spend 3 mana. You do need a spells matters component, I think, to justify.
Yeah, I agree with that. Totally.
Okay, next card is really frustrating.
I'm gonna refrain from my opinion on this one. What do we think of Sink into Stupor, which I want to say is 1 blue instant, return a spell or non-land permanent to its owner's hand?
So we played this card in the mainline and Peasant Cube for a while, I believe. I don't think it ever did anything, but the Magic community as a whole is incredibly high on this one. And with just reading the card, I feel like it should be an A tier card, but my personal thoughts on it are much lower than that.
I agree that it's often it can kind of feel disappointing sometimes, but I mean I don't like it as much as Fell, but I do think it gets to that A tier level where it's like, Bolt Land, and it's not hard to get some sort of value from this, and sometimes it can be backbreaking. I think it depends to some degree on how tempo-oriented your blue section is, but now that we have Mystic and Messenger, it's definitely getting more tempo-oriented, at least in my cube. So I like it as like, A level, not as good as Fell, maybe bottom of A. I think it's better than like Specimen for sure. I think maybe similar to Trawler, but like top of B, bottom of A, I think is around there is where I'd have it.
I would go top of B. Again, if it was just me, nobody else here, I would have it in like C or D range. I think the card actually just plays terribly And maybe it's just something to do with counterspells on MDFCs that I just really don't like, because I think Jawari Disruption really sucks too. And that's just my experience playing with the card, is that it was just really bad in like every environment where I played it. I could see arguments where people, you know, were like, oh, it's been great, you do this and this in your control deck or whatever. But my experience is it just kind of plays. So I'm going to bump it just slightly down from A and put it top of B.
Yeah. I think also some of the people who are excited about this card are playing it in stuff like Vintage Cube, extremely powerful environments. Yeah, and there it kind of makes sense as a modality, because the tempo you get is so much that you're going to win the game a lot of the time. But like, especially in Peasant, these games go long. They tend to be pretty grindy. It's not that it's a bad card, but the tempo isn't like you're bouncing your opponent's spell or, you know, their permanent or whatever and then winning the game next turn.
Yeah, it's not even that impressive when you do cast it and get something. Like, you're probably paying 3 mana to counter 3 mana. It's cancel. It's a cancel / an expensive unsummon. I guess unsubstantiate.
I think in Peasant
is what
it's doing a lot in Peasant is killing a token. I think that's like the kind of baseline for it. But that's, you know, I think that's not necessarily bad, especially if your opponent's playing, you know, 2 mana 2/1 flying equipped job select thing. Like, you know, I think this has uses, but I agree it's not at the level of the other top MDFCs for sure.
Okay. Kabira Takedown. We actually still have this in our Peasant Cube. It's 1 and a white for an instant. Deals damage to target creature equal to the number of creatures you control. Might hit planeswalkers, not sure, but
this card rules.
It is good. I have felt like it's dropped off slightly lately, because they have been pushing things like Focus Fire and some of those other like Case of the Gateway Express type cards, but I do think it still holds up.
Yeah, I think this is another one of those ones too, where this is very much I put this card in my deck because I want the effect. And so now that they're printing better versions of that effect, it is losing a little bit of ground. You really don't want to play this one as a land if you can help it. The land being an option is really nice. I think it's better than Fell because it costs half as much mana. But Landside comes into play tapped. It's not going to make every single white deck. It's conceivable to come up with decks that wouldn't have enough tokens or enough creatures in play to make this awesome. I do think its average case is really, really good though. So I think it's easy A tier, but I don't think it's quite got enough to get into S tier anymore.
I feel pretty differently about it, honestly. Like I used to run it, I don't run it anymore, and it's basically what you're talking about there, where it's like you really don't want to play it as a land, but as a removal spell, I think it's quite poor. And these days, like compared to any other option, and even not just compared to other options, like I'm in plenty of situations in my decks where it's like I'm up against a high removal deck, and I just can't get enough creatures in play. Or, you know, the Thraben Charm dealing double damage matters a ton, is what I'm trying to say. And I've definitely been in situations where Takedown I couldn't cast it. And I think unlike Fell's just a much better land. It's just a way better land. I think that is the key. So, and you can always target something with it, whereas sometimes Takedown is just rotting in your hand. So personally, I'd have this similar to Rebirth, Malkia Rebirth, as in like top of B. That's where I'd have those cards. I don't think it gets up to Fell level.
No, I think top of around this range is pretty good. It's not these bolt lands definitely like just occupy the highest slots.
I do agree that the addition of like Case of the Gateway Express, Thraben Charm, Focus Fire, it is pushing this card's playability down quite a bit, because the big upside of this card was always that it was just right in line for the effect that you expected.
And a lot of the strength comes from like basically every white deck in Peasant right now is a creature based swarm deck of some sort, or a token deck. Like there's
that's the awkward thing about it too, though, is like in the decks you want to play this, the tap land is pretty punishing. So it's like that's why you really don't want to plan on using this as a land, and that just makes it way worse.
Well, yeah, if you play 17 tap lands, you gotta play some untapped lands too, and then you just you never get punished.
Flip side of this is it's one of the easiest way to play 16 lands without actually playing 16 lands, or you could play 17, and that's obviously the case for all MDFCs, but I do think that's pretty relevant in some of these more aggressively oriented decks where you want to play a lower land count but you really don't want to, because missing land drops is a way to lose games of Magic. Sure. And this is a way for people to play their lands without and not cope themselves into thinking that they're their Boros Hagrid that can play 15 lands and get away with it.
McKindy Stampede. This is 5 mana, 3 white. Creatures you control get +2/+2 until end of turn. Like,
but an Exasong, man.
No,
it's
like,
the same for the same reason. It costs 1 mana too much.
This one can win a game though. It's just bad. So I think right here is Like this will never win you a game ever. This could win you a game if your opponent like just isn't playing around bad overrun or whatever. Okay, this one I don't. It's Razor Grass Ambush. I think 1 in a white, 3 damage to an attacking or blocking creature. Is there life
with a
gain
bolt
or
land
anything
on the
on there?
back. Nope.
Okay, so that's the whole effect. It's like the impeccable time in a Johnny's intervention type thing on an MDFC.
Yeah, I think this one's really weird in Peasant because I actually think it's the kind of card that probably gets better in something like our mainline environment to a certain extent, because I think white decks in Peasant tend to be fairly aggressive and you don't want to have to use your removal spell on a creature after it's been blocked. I think the land obviously being able to come play untapped is really nice. This is a very control coded card in a color that doesn't do that very well. And if you really want this effect, now we've got like Focus Fire, we've got Elspeth Smite, we've got a bunch of versions of this effect that, sure, you don't get the land component, but they're much more efficient at doing this job.
It's a bolt. It's a bolt land, so I don't think it can go lower than B for me. And that being said, I really strongly dislike the attacking or blocking removal. That phrase I think is actually harder to make use of positively than you'd think. So to me, it's like B tier. I don't think it can be below B tier, but it's somewhere in B tier.
Yeah,
I think it's worse than Trawler. I think it's probably a little better than Kazul's Fury because now we're getting into the like cards that aren't bolt lands.
Yeah, and plus you'll almost always get something with this. It might not be like a premium removal spell when you do. So, the middle of B seems fine. I love Shigiri Shelter, but it's not good. It's 1 in a white instant. Target creature you control gains protection from the color of your choice till end of turn, I believe is the text.
Good commander card.
Yeah, I mean, you could make the MDFC argument here for getting protection in your deck, but there's just good protection at 1 mana. Like, I don't... Two mana for protection is a lot. It's a lot, especially when... And sometimes you can, like, push through an attacker, past a bunch of black creatures or something like that, but that just doesn't come up that often. So this ends up being, like, God's Willing for 2 mana or whatever.
I do think this is better than everything below Balaged Recovery. I don't know where exactly it lands, but if you tried to tell me it's worse,
I'd say it's somewhere in that range. I don't know about better than. To me, it's kind of bottom of C. It's you can realize the value from this, and so to me, like D is pretty hard to realize the value from, and this is you can get the value from it. It's just pretty inefficient.
Yeah, I mean, if we're like moving within the tiers, I like I said, I would probably put it above Wari Disruption and Valakid. I don't really care too much as long as the top and the bottom of the tier are kind of in line. I think Shigiri Shelter is a weird one because I do think like it's a card that probably should make most white commander decks, but in Peasant Cube, it's kind of hard to justify the cube slot, the deck slot, the tempo hit, and all that.
These are almost identical. In fact, I would put this above because there are more cases where you get to use this for something because you can push through an attacker with like these are both 2 mana spells that are being reactive to something your opponent's doing. You're hoping to get them. It might not happen. And then you get punished when you have to play it as a land. It's the story of both of these cards.
I think it's also a little better because it doesn't bait you into holding it quite as badly as Wari Disruption, because Wari Disruption is just kind of like, well, I've got to, hold up my man. Like a lot of times with Shigiri Shelter, is like, all right, whatever. My hand doesn't work with the tap land, or it doesn't work with this protection effect right now. I'll just play my tap land and move on.
Well, also like kind of similar to all the other cards in C. I think a lot of these, I would think that there's a chance that you're trying to push some specific synergy with some of these cards if they're in there, and this does work nicely with like the double strike heroic 2-drop and the mouse and that stuff. So it's like if I saw this, I'd be like, oh, there's a higher chance that there's some kind of a heroic deck in this cube.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Skyclave Cleric. Teld, while you were away and I was setting up, Daneelius was like convinced this is S tier, and I need you to like talk him off of it. It gains 2 life when it enters.
It's 2 mana, it blocks, it gains life. Like, what's not to like about
he
this
said,
card?
I think I'm quoting him correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think he said like if Sundering Eruption wasn't available, this would be like.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Man,
no, what I said was is that
Cleric, but this card sucks.
It's not.
What I said was that in the earliest iterations of my cube, I had a life gain theme, and so to me it's like somewhere in the bottom of C in the sense that if you have a life gain theme, this makes sense as an MDFC to play if you're looking to lower the power level. But I don't think it's great.
I think it doesn't make sense as an MDFC though, because as if you think about the way MDFCs play, we want to play them as tap lands in the early game, and then we want to have something to spend our mana on in the later portions of the game. And this is kind of a card that you want to play on turn 2 because it doesn't scale into the game very well unless you have exactly, like you said, unless you have exactly life gain synergies. But even if you do, surely there are better things you can be doing. I don't know. I think this is unplayable, but it's better than Tangle Florahedrons, so I guess it has to go into C tier.
I really want Florahedron to be the bottom card in C by the time we're done here. So
nice, I like that.
Well, it should be in D tier, so it will always be the bottom card in C.
My memory of this card, I think we played it when it came out because that was 2019. The card pool wasn't very wide, so we kind of had to. But my memory of this was limited resources LSV being like, yeah, in Zendikar Rising, you just take all the off-color MDFCs and they'll splash for each other. So every deck should be taken McKindy, Stampede, and Cleric, and if you draw one, it'll help you cast the other, and if you don't, you just play it as a tap land, and that's not that bad. And I was like, LSV, could you... I know you're better at Magic than me, but could you stop giving people the worst advice of all time?
That is straight rage baiting. That's just like we're just like
a lot of people thought that.
Witch Enchanter, S tier.
Yeah, worse than Sundering Eruption. Probably, I think it's bottom of S tier, but I
have it as mid, like straight middle of S tier. Basically, I think it's just one of the best.
I love the Rex Sages, and I love when you get them for free. Fletcher, we should put this in Fletcher tier because he would have it as the best. I think he would probably. No, maybe some of these gold ones would make it higher, but this card's amazing. It's just amazing. We don't really have to go into detail. Reclamation Sage is still like marginally playable, and this just gives it to you in your mana base.
So, I'm about to add a card to the cube from Spider-Man that I'm thinking is going to be a straight B when I add it, and it's one. Most of the time, it's just going to be one toughness and power bigger than this, and it exiles instead of destroying, and it doesn't have the land on it. So it's like, this.
Could you not use the S word on this tier? We did our review.
We don't have a Spider-Man set. We have Through the Omen.
No, he said it again. He said it again. Yes.
Through the Omen Paths.
Yeah, OM1 set code OM1. Yeah. Okay, we're getting into the goodies here. So the hybrid cycle, which was for the most part amazing additions to MH3. This one, not one of the best ones. So Blood-Soaked Insight, 7 mana, costs 1 less for each life your opponents cast, and then it lets you impulse draw the top 3 cards of their library and cast them until, I don't know, the end of your next turn, I think.
End of your next turn.
Okay, real quick, before we do this, where would you rank a Guild Gate? Just if you had a Guild Gate in your tier list, where would it make it on this tier list?
It would definitely be D for me.
Okay. Because I would probably have.
Is this the lead into a joke? Is this
Guild Gate, no upside, like just straight up.
Yeah. Okay, well, you would put it in D.
So you think the front half of this card is uncastable? Is that?
No, it actually wasn't making a joke. I was just trying to get a barometer for like, did we think Guild Gates were D or C tier? Because 2 colors of fixing is pretty good. I do think this card's hard to cast, and Rakdos is a weird space because often they're kind of trying to do their own game plan, right? They've got like their own things they want to spend mana on. A lot of times that they've got, Deadly Dispute and stuff to keep card churn. I think this card's pretty good, but like it is awkward in that if you're behind, it's not very good. And if you're ahead, it gets really good. Like if you can deal 5 damage to your opponent, it's just like a 2 mana, draw 3.
I like the card a lot. I've seen it cast in a situation where a player was slightly behind and he hit 3 like B level cards off his opponent's deck and just completely destroyed. So I think there's just a big range on this, but I kind of like that out of these MDFCs, having a pretty big range. So I would definitely not go. I mean, you can't go lower than B in my mind. I don't know if it gets to A, but I think like top of B is where I'd have it around the top of B.
I think it's one of the weaker ones in this cycle, but still really good.
Yeah, this cycle is just great.
I agree.
They're not bolt lanes. They all come in tapped. I'm putting it in like this range. But one issue I have with this one specifically is a lot of the flexibility of this cycle is being hybrid and going in like 4 or 5 decks or whatever. And this one feels like it kind of only fits in Rakdos. I rarely ever see it in like a non-red, non-black like deck that includes one of those colors, but you could always throw it in as a Guild Gate for 3 color decks and then maybe get the ability off of it or something. I do agree with Teld. Like this is one of the MDFCs that probably gets cast at like a 1-to-5 ratio or something, whereas like a Glasswing Grace is maybe a 1-to-1 or 50% or something like that. So higher than average, but still average. Sound good to everybody here?
Yeah, top end of average.
Drowner of Truths. This is it a 7/6 for 7 mana with Simic Hybrid, and then what's the ability here? If you cast it with colorless mana, it makes 2 Eldrazi spawns, the 1/1s.
Yeah, no, it makes the O1s.
The O1s. Okay, so a 7/6 on a 7 mana card that probably doesn't make the dudes, but could make some extra mana dudes.
I mean, a 7/6 for 7 mana isn't great, but you also got it for free on your land that in Peasant was always going to come into play tapped anyways.
I do like this card.
Yeah, I like it. I think it is another one of the kind of weaker ones in the cycle because it dies to 2 mana removal sometimes. But also, sometimes you just draw this and you have a 7 mana 7/6 in like your top deck, and that's not horrible.
I think
it probably goes near, maybe a little above the black red one. I think the black red one fits what black red is doing more often, but like blue green, I don't know. Blue green wants this kind of like big expensive thing. It's just not a very good big expensive thing.
Yeah, my personal opinion is that this is probably the worst one. I think it's still, I can't put it below B. I'd have it somewhere in the middle, top of B. It's just, I think it is the hardest for this to have like a meaningful impact. It's nice, I guess. The one nice thing about it is that as I remove the expensive cards from my cube over and over again, this now being like an expensive thing that you get to play without, actually playing an expensive card is useful. But I don't know. I think it's the hardest to see big value from this out of all the 2-color hybrid lands.
That's fair.
Okay, well, how about the easiest one to see good value out of all the hybrid lands? Straight to the top.
Glasswing Grace is really good. Teld thinks this is like the be-all, end-all card in the queue or something. I think it's like fine. Well, I should say I think it's good.
I would probably put it bottom of S. Maybe you could talk me down to top of A, but I think that when this card is cast as a spell, you just win so. This is gonna get the Sundering Eruption effect of where you just win a bunch of games because you had a on Sarah's wings in your deck.
It gets cast way more than Sundering Eruption.
I agree that it's S tier for sure. I have like 8-9 cards in S tier or something like that, but I definitely think it's an S tier. Like it's the kind of card that you're gonna search for with your Sun Spider or whatever that the Omen Pass card is called. And that's that's all you need to know. Like,
are you talking about Sun Spider, Nimble Weaver?
Of course, let's go with that. Of course, yeah.
Or the arena version, Aknabapata, the Spider Wrangler or whatever.
Yes, yep.
Because that's every card. This card is very good. I don't see this card and be like, I'm first picking this thing, but people certainly do, and it is very strong.
Yeah, I'll first pick it for sure.
Okay.
I would first pick it. Yeah, easy first pick.
Legion's something. Leadership is this is the hybrid Boros one for 2 mana. It doubles a creature's power and gives it first strike, I believe.
it does, yeah. This card's good. It is like the spell part of this card wins combats. It kills people. It does a lot of cool things, especially with a certain 1/1 mouse soldier creature. But it's also is very situational, and it's one of the ones that's most likely to get you into trouble when you try to do it proactively.
Yes, I think it's not primo S tier.
It's definitely better than the red black or the green blue one on average because it's cheap.
Yes, I agree.
So maybe it's either the very top of B or like the bottom of A.
I personally like
lower
it.
Middle A.
I would put it like right here somewhere.
I'm pretty. Cool
I'd advocate pretty hard for it to be S, and the argument is that to me, like, I guess part of what I'm thinking about with these rankings is where I take it in the draft. And again, I definitely would take a Legion leadership first, specifically because it goes in your white decks or it goes in your red decks, and most of my white or red decks are going to be really happy with the ability on the card. And in white red specifically, it's where it's at its best on both sides. So yeah, I think that all of the highly castable hybrid lands get up to this S tier for me because I'm very happy to take them early.
Yeah, I think I'm cool with the top of A. I don't think this is on the same level as the S tier cards for me, but I do think it's quite good.
Yeah, let's average out here. Like, I would probably put it here. I think Teld would probably have it in the same range. If you would put it in S, let's just put it top of A because it has a lot of.
I think I'm cool with that because I think I cast this as a spell a lot more often than Fel.
I think that's fair.
I wouldn't first pick Fel probably, and I would first pick.
I could never see myself first picking this card.
Yeah, I would never first pick this card, but I also will draft it. I'm also very happy to have it in my deck. Where I'm pretty happy.
Look at this combo right here. They're just dead.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite interaction ever with this, because it doesn't give double strike, it doubles a creature's powers. I used it on an opponent's creature to save my creature from a getaway glamour because it no longer had the greatest power on board. And I won that game. Revitalize and Repass, which puts this card to shame totally. This is the hybrid Golgari one that gives a creature a +1/+1 counter and indestructible until end of turn.
Yeah, this has the downside of being in the wrong color pair, but it is a really good card.
If this was the Boros one, I think it would be an insane card for those decks. As a Golgari card, it's still, I mean, you put it in every green / maybe every green, maybe every black deck. And
if this was any Naya combination, this would be an awesome card.
I would still have this low A tier personally.
Yeah, like it's 1 mana. Sometimes it's going to counter like a 3 mana removal spell or something. It's going to win combats for a single mana. I think it's definitely got
1 mana.
It's 1 mana. It's so few mana, and you can get it in either color of mana. I think this is probably the effect is better on average, I think, than Legion Leadership, but I find myself casting Legion Leadership more often, probably just because it's in a color pair that is really good at doing that.
I would argue even more strongly for this as an S tier. I think this is one of the top 5 in the cube, and more so than Leadership. I'm happy to first pick this because it's 1 mana. It's just it's so easy to get the value from this, and it can go in green or black decks. I agree that it's like going to be better in an aggro deck, but in a black deck where you have your morbid opportunist or whatever, it's still relevant. Like I think it's just a really good early pick. Whereas I agree, Legion Leadership is a little bit more narrowing of your deck space.
Yeah, I think I'm cool with this. Like, it is a very good protection effect that just fits in your mana base, and 1 mana is basically it's close to free as you're getting unless you're casting Mishra's Bubble.
Mm-hmm. I mean, these are the same cards, so. Okay, Rush of Inspiration.
Okay, this is the actual worst MDFC.
What is this? No, I don't believe so. I believe it's second to last. Personally,
I guess there's actually. Okay, I forgot that card exists. Sorry.
So 3 mana. This one's what is it? Draw 2, discard 2, and then pivotally, most importantly,
discard 1.
Okay, draw 2, discard 1, get 2 energy
at random. Discard 1 at random.
No, you missed it. You discard 1 at random unless you pay 2 energy.
But you just read it as
okay. I don't know what this card does. I don't know what this card does.
I think this one is not as bad as your guys are making it out to be, purely because it is a draw 2 at instant speed and it's a discard effect at instant speed, and that matters for your mystics and your messengers and your
I don't think
Makos and your sky rays and all that stuff. So it's like a card I'm solidly happy to play it still in basically every blue-red deck I play, because it's also a non-creature spell trigger for that stuff. So I'd have it at a similar place as Insight. It's like top of B for me, around there.
I like top of B mostly because of the mana fix and that you're getting on top of the alternative here, or B range.
I think it's worse than Boggart Trawler. I'd put it between Boggart Trawler and the removal spell.
I think that's fine. I mean, I think that's okay.
That's a pretty small deviation, but that is where I would personally put it, I think.
It might be better than the big dude here. Or maybe we do like this or something.
Yeah, maybe I think if anything, we put the big dude too high, not that card. Because I think Boggart Trawler is better than it too. So yeah, I like this better.
And just side by side comparison here, Solendi Vision gets like embarrassed by this card. Strength of the something.
Harvest.
Is that what this card is called? Strength of the Harvest is 2 and a green-white hybrid, gives the enchanted creature +1/+1 for each creature and aura? Enchantment. Aura enchantment you control?
Oh, this card is so sweet. This card is an absolute banger. It's not Glasswing Grace.
No, it's a step below Glasswing Grace, but it's still also pretty strong.
I think I'd put it right next to Legion Leadership. Like, this card just kills people out of nowhere, just all the time.
Yeah, I had this between Leadership and Glasswing. I have all 3 at S tier, but you know, I would argue for it S tier for sure. But I think it's a little better than Leadership just because persistent advantage you get from it. You're often going to get as much power out of this as you will from Leadership, but it stays. So
this also turns like a 1/1. It does what Leadership can't, which is like take a 1/1 token or something and make it into an 8/8 or something. I would settle for this at the bottom of S. Like, I think this card is really, really good, and I have first picked it on occasion, I think.
Yeah, I definitely would first pick it.
Yeah, I guess this. I mean, top of A is A+, S-, bottom of S is A+, S-.
Yeah.
Equivalent. I have Stump as an S tier. MDFC. I think this card is fantastic.
Yeah.
Top 5 for me, close to Glasswing and Witch Enchanter. Way up there.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think it is. Yeah, the saving of mana, I think Bridgeworks Battle probably, I see it cast more often, but I don't really think there's a huge difference on them in average, because usually your green creatures are going to win the fight anyways.
Yeah, these are very close, if not just overlapping for various reasons. Comes in tapped, taps for more colors of mana, whatever.
I think Sunspot's a better early pick because it can go in multiple decks. Yes. I think that matters.
Yeah, that's fair.
Suppression Rays, I think, is 5 mana for 3 blue white. Tap all your opponent's creatures, and you can pay an energy for each one you want to remain tapped for a turn. Is the summary of that card.
Yeah, I think I would put this at the top of B, bottom of A. Like, most of the time, it's the one that I think you cast. It's near the bottom of ones you're casting. I mean, the one we're going to talk about in a minute, you literally never cast. But when you cast it, you win the game. So it's kind of got Sundering Eruption energy, but you can't play it untapped. You're, in most environments, never getting the energy out of it. So it is just a, like, tap all your opponent's creatures at sorcery speed for 5 mana, which you need to be in a spot where you can actually kill your opponent, but it is really good.
But I
think it's worse than Legion Leadership. I don't know if I'd have it a full tier below Legion Leadership, but I think I might. It's either bottom of A or top of B for me.
I like it more than Fel. I think that, like, again, just the fact that these can be good early picks and keep you open, and also the fact that it works so well with white go wide, I think that's a big deal. Mm-hmm. Like, I will often just play this in my white decks without worrying about the blue side at all. But the fact that you do have that as an option, like, maybe not. I can understand if you guys don't like it as much as Fel, but I definitely would have it A tier. I think all of these cards to me are very strong, just because of the flexibility they give you.
The tapping to kill your opponent's cards, the tapping to kill your opponent does come up a lot. Like, I guess I could see it next to Fel. I think it's weird because I think it's a more powerful effect than Fel, right? In that you win the game when you cast it, but I think you cast Fel more often.
You do cast Fel more often than this card for sure, but
it was a better, but it's also it's a fixing land, so it's like that's not exactly a fair comparison. But yeah, I hear you.
Sure, yeah.
And then Waterlogged Teachings is the 4 mana instant. You can go get an instant or creature with flash. Which, just kidding, you can't do that because you can't cast this card. You can't cast this card.
So do you remember when I asked you? Do you remember when I asked you guys where you would place a Guild Gate?
I do think this card plays like a Guild Gate. Because
this is a Guild Gate.
The only time you ever can or should cast this is if it's literally the only thing you have to do with your mana.
So, just as a quick reference, I'm going to look and verify this, but I believe
whatever you're about to say, I'm going to just assume is a lie. But it's a lie. Don't listen to it.
It's a data lie. Here we go.
Somebody played this in our cube yesterday, and I asked, and so there's a Nequam is a really, really good player, often at the top of the leaderboards for the retail draft environment. He played a black-red artifact deck, splashing blue, for Haunt the Network and Zoetic Glyph and whatever. And he said that he cast Waterlogged Teachings 3 times over the course of the event. He went 2-1.
Well, that is, that's crazy. That's 3 more times than it's ever been cast in the Jank Diver Cube, I think.
Right. When I say you literally can't cast this card, I mean, you could cast it 5% of the time and maybe it'll do something, but it's such a desperation cast, I think.
Okay, I will give the slightest thing here. If you have specifically a card like Haunt the Network that is kind of just a build around in your deck and you're building towards it.
Can this even
like
get
I
Haunt
could
the
see
Network?
I could see having.
No, it can get Haunt the Network, but it can get other things.
Oh, can it not get Haunt the Network? Oh,
No,
never mind. This card's so. Why is this card so bad?
It can go get a removal spell, and then you're just I don't think there's any situation where you're ever going to get away with anything with this card. It's just going to play like a.
It can get dubious delicacy. It can get nowhere to run. It can get there's some.
I would argue that's very bad if you spent 4 mana to go fetch your 1-for-1 removal spell.
Well, in situations where you're doing that, I think it's quite relevant is the point. But yeah, it's going to get cast as a spell less often probably than almost all the other spells on this list. But I think when you're using it, it's when you're like late game as the blue deck and you're trying to put the hammer down and the land isn't useful. But hey, if this land is actually a removal spell, that's something. Like I don't think it's great, but I think it's close to like Rush. I still think it's a all these cards. I think it's still so strong.
Spell at that point,
Rush.
Agreed. But it has some modality.
Which one's Rush?
Blue-red one is Rush. The blue-red one.
I think this one would drop probably into C tier for me personally, but I get it if you don't. Like, I don't think this is meaningfully better than a Guildgate in 95% of the scenarios.
I would also do that, but I'm gonna go ahead and put it in B range, out of respect for the third voice.
Well, also
here.
it's like you're playing, what cubes are going to be running 9 out of the 10 MDFCs? Like everybody's running this, and so it's like it makes it tough to.
That was
grade,
kind of because suppression rate. Actually, I was surprised to find out you do cast it sometimes. But when I read the whole cycle, I was like, oh man, there's these weird energy ones that it would feel weird not to play. This is the one that I wish was just a different effect or something. Like an overcosted -3/-3 for 5 mana or something. Like I don't know, but I will go ahead and put it here. I also want to point out, Daneelius said something about his blue-black decks putting down the hammer. I don't know what that could possibly mean in blue-black, but...
I mean, a control deck,
just
late game, and you're trying to, like, end the game, finish it. You don't want to be lasting forever. It's like, instead of this land, you draw a removal spell. It's something. Or you draw your draw 3. It's just a really slow draw 3. Or you draw, there's something there. But I agree that it's probably the worst one.
All right, and then the Lord of the Rings land cyclers, which we included here because they do kind of play very similar to MDFCs. You're, either spending 1 mana for a tapped land, or you're getting some sort of late game utility out of your creature or your dude or whatever. So we'll go ahead and rank these, and I think like the world at large might have like a general idea of how these rank. So I guess we'll go ahead and put them here. So I guess my first question is: are these all like auto S tier cards?
Automatic what tier cards?
S tier cards, like.
No.
Okay, because I ask because I think some people treat them as though they are all just S tier cards. But
I used to.
Troll of Khazad-dûm, 6 mana, 6/5, Super Menace, must be blocked by 3 creatures, and all of these have land cycling of their type for 1 generic mana. But notably, they can go get dual lands if you have dual lands to go get, or tri-lands or whatever.
Yeah, so when Daneelius was mentioning putting down the hammer, this is kind of what I would imagine I want to be doing with putting down the hammer in my control deck, is I'm going to play something that actually kills my opponent.
More fair.
I think this card is one of the ones that if you want to, I don't know if I put it in S tier, but it's like top of A-ish. It's very, very good. This card's, obviously the floor is just being kind of a tap land. We don't really run synergies with it anymore to reanimate or do anything like that for on the cheap, but just being a really big guy that's also a tap land and also really hard to block, I think gets you a lot of places. Awkward to spend 6 mana on a card that dies to 2 mana removal sometimes, but I do think this card's really good because it does put your opponent on a very short clock.
Yeah, I've had a big roller coaster with the land cyclers from Lord of the Rings. I used to consider them S tier for sure, like all of them, just slam dunk. I was taking them all really early, but I think it depends a lot on your cube construction, specifically the number of domain lands that you have for these to go get. I have changed my mind pretty drastically on like how good these are without those domain lands. I have cut these from decks that don't have the domain lands, and I will also say that a lot of my good drafters have been trying to get me to do that for a long time. They really don't think that even with a domain land, they don't like them as much as I think any of us do, but definitely without a domain land, they think they're extremely cuttable. I used to be unsure about that. So I guess it depends a lot in my mind on cube construction. How many domain lands are you running? And then, so if it's like a given, you're going to be able to pair this with a relevant domain land, then I consider them all like bottom of A, top of B tier. But if you're not playing domain lands, I actually think they're more like C tier. I don't think they're really worth running. So I do think they scale in power level based on domain lands in your environment.
Yeah, I think that's crazy, but I can see for a couple of them, but for this one specifically, for Troll of Khazad-dûm specifically, I can't see this going below like bottom of A at worst. I think this card's just great.
Yeah, I would put it at bottom of A personally.
I do. One of the biggest requests for our Peasant Cube is to just add a second cycle of typed lands specifically for these cards, which would be downgrade in a land cycle to make these cards better. And I don't think it makes sense to downgrade 10 cards to make 5 cards better, but I do want another cycle of dual lands that do something, do anything at all, to kind of make these better, because we're only on 1 land cycle. And a lot of times you'll be playing a green-black deck where Troll just goes and gets your green-black deck, or you'll be playing a Sultai deck where this can't get your 3rd color or something. That said, I think there are deck constructions, maybe not ours specifically, maybe not Daneelius' specifically, but deck constructions where you do have a lot of lands that you can go get with these cards. And to Teld's point, I think just because our cube doesn't really support big reanimator stuff or stuff like this doesn't mean I should dock it, because a lot of cubes do support that sort of thing, and this is one of the primo reanimation targets.
If you're running like reanimate and animate dead, then yeah, this maybe gets up to S tier.
I do think this is an S tier card. In Peasant Cube at large, not necessarily like our exact construction of Peasant Cube. And I'm willing to knock it down if we're just like, how is this play in R cube specifically? I don't think it can go below A though. That seems kind of kind of vicious towards them. If they're not doing the maximum thing, they're still doing something very good, I think.
Yeah, well, like I think some of them I'm gonna be a little harsher on, but I think, like I said, this one's just a fine finisher. It's not amazing because it's expensive and it doesn't have protection, but it is a fine finisher.
Yeah. As opposed to Oliphant, which doesn't have those reanimation synergies most of the time and is just mostly a worse creature to cast or reanimate or whatever. This is just, I think most people understand Oliphant is like a worse version of Troll of Khazad-dûm.
Top of B, very similar cards, but worse.
This one's B. Yeah, this one's
would you put these LTR things below the 2-color MDFCs?
I think they're pretty similar. They're pretty similar to the 2-color. I personally would prefer Oliphant to the 2 to the left of that. I think I would have it closer to Sync as like an actual top of B card, but
sure, probably better than
I think like this is a card that's awkward because you're not going, a lot of your red decks aren't going to go as long, but I do think like in your Gruul decks, this is a good way to have something that's a land, but also something to spend mana on. I think it's got spots where it's good, and sometimes in your aggro decks, you're just going to draw it late. It'll be pretty good.
Well, and Red's getting more mana ramp now, and that's probably going to continue to happen, so I could see it getting better for that reason as well.
Okay, this one, is this the easiest, like one of the easiest S tiers ever? This is like just a totally playable card that's also, I don't know, maybe I'm just Lorien revealed brained, but like I love this card.
I think it's S tier, but I would be willing to engage with incorrect opinions about why it might not be S tier.
I have it as top of A, similar reasons as the others. I would never play just sorcery 5-mana draw 3 in my deck. So I still do want to have that land to go get with it, but if I have it, then it's very good. So yeah, I have it as top of A.
Yeah,
well, it's not just a sorcery. This is a tap. This is a tap land that also has the side of 5.
Right. But you're saying like this is just a really good card. Blah blah blah. It's like I don't think it's a really good card. It's like a card. It's a
well the effect for 5 mana. Like without the island cycling, this is not a good card. So
right, it's a terrible card.
I like when my tap land draws me 3 cards in the mid game. What can I say?
I really like the card. I think it is first pickable card, and for me that puts it as like top of A, bottom of S, something like that.
Sure.
I think barring, I don't even care about domain synergies. I think barring any sort of reanimation or specific synergies for this card, this is so clearly the best of this cycle that I would put it into S. But again, if like you wanted to put it into A, I could understand.
I think I got 2-1 on whatever this card's called. I'm gonna go ahead and 2-1 here. I do think this also gets bonus points by like so many of Blue's best finishers caring about like spells and graveyards, and there are discard synergies if you're doing that whole package of things with your, I guess Containment Construct's not the best example, but like your Mako and your Sting and Skyray. I am surprised to hear Teld put it in S though, given that he just found out he can't go get it with Waterlogged teaching. So Eagles of the North is in that Oliphant territory, right?
It's worse than Oliphant. Yeah, it's a little worse. It's the worst of the land cyclers, I'd say. But I still think your go wide decks, you'll happily play this, assuming it has some function outside of just the creature. Like you have to have the land to go get. But if you do, then it's still solid enough to run. But it's worse than all.
Yeah, I don't mind running this as the 17th land in my white aggro deck. I think it's meaningfully worse than Oliphant because you have a lot of setup to make it good. Whereas Oliphant is usually just there's a lot more spots where Oliphant's just a fine top deck than Eagles is just a fine top deck. But I think the ceiling on Eagles is a lot higher because if you've got that good board of wide tokens, it does sometimes enable good attacks. This is definitely the one that's the closest to being just a tap land though. And to the point that, in a lot of ways, the Starfield Shepherd, we decided not to put this on the list, but Starfield Shepherd kind of does the same thing, but just is a better value card overall. It's hard to compare because 1 mana versus 2, but I think Eagles is the one that you cast the least of this whole cycle.
Sure. It might even be worse than the 2-color MDFCs in general. I don't know what ceiling you're talking about. These things fly, baby. The sky is the ceiling. The one very cool thing we found with this card was when we were playing Shadowfax, you could dump it into play with Shadowfax off the attack trigger, get it in attack, and pump the team. It was really cool. You don't see that sort of stuff too often. And then Generous Ent, which, I have it squarely in between the 2 bottom ones and the 2 top ones. Closer to Troll than Oliphant.
Yeah, I think this kind of, you were talking about Lorien Revealed having Lorien Revealed getting taken advantage of the fact that a lot of Blue's best cards are Spell Matters cards. I think sort of similarly, a lot of Green's really good cards are cards that kind of want you to be able to put a card into the graveyard. This lets you make sure that you have a hit for your Eternal Witness style effects early into the game. It powers up stuff like the Final Days and all of that sort of thing. On top of just being a really good stabilizing play, the food token has some synergies, and also just gaining like 3 life off that is enough to oftentimes stabilize you when you account for this thing having a million toughness and reach. So yeah, I like it as the middle card between it, and it's definitely better, like a tier better than Oliphant and the Eagles.
I co-sign all that. You usually feel pretty good when you cast this card, not which you can't always say for Oliphant, for sure. So,
and you're often
it's definitely better than
on turn 5 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, 5/7 is a gnarly stat line. That's pretty big.
Man, look at this nice.
Yeah.
You know,
let's see if we move
standard standard curve. Like we're pretty close to having like a totally. Yeah, if we could just cut like a card or two from S tier, we'd have
there's
this nice
41
bell curve going on.
There's 41, so we can't get the perfect square there unless we start ranking Kazandu Mammoth. And funny to see a Hagra mulling down here when Fel the Profane is an uncommon that's just better. But yeah, there you go. All the MDFCs that are available to us on Arena, which I think is all the MDFCs below rare that exist in Magic. I don't think they've ever done a Commander MDFC or anything like that, so I think this is everything, plus the Lord of the Rings land cyclers, which fit into the conversation as well. This looks pretty good to me. I mean, we're not going to recap everything here, but just to kind of like the top of the top here, you do see rock solid removal spells, finisher type cards, and then kind of like cards you would be happy playing as just normal Magic the Gathering cards, but they just spotted you the effect on like an MDFC. So
I do see one spot in this, in this curve that we could make the graph look a lot better if we could just all acknowledge that Tangled Florahedron does not belong in C tier. It would make this graph look a lot better.
All right.
Look at that. It's so beautiful.
There you go. It's unplayable.
There you go.
Tangled Florahedron. Perfect. You heard it here.
Where it belongs.
Not first, but for the 57th time since 2019 when Zendikar Rising came out. Florahedron, unplayable. There you go. Also, notably, Zendikar Rising, everything else.
Yep.
Is Kabira Takedown the only... And you could argue these are even a tier lower when they're sitting next to like these things. But yeah, the Zendikar Rising ones didn't really hold up, or maybe the MH2 ones and stuff just like power corrupt us through the roof or something. But yeah.
Just gotta wait for MH4 when the...
Oh, God.
I think we could definitely spend some time like kind of tweaking some of these and making this list look a little different. But I think this is a pretty solid 1 hour project type list.
This looks like
the list is perfect.
Yeah, a decent representation of where I do wonder if other people did this, like where they would land on them. I'm sure it would look significantly different from person to person. This would probably not make it. I'm not arguing against it, but this would not make it, I think, even to S tier for a lot of people. You might even see this like down in D tier for certain players. But
and people dirtle too much. You gotta make them pay the price.
Yeah, you gotta blue-white deck has to kill the people. So yeah, this looks good to me. And Wizards of the Coast, I know you're watching this, obviously. Can we get more MDFCs, please? Can we get more? I would love some more MDFCs. Or
24, 35, the entire cube is MDFCs.
Can we rarity
MDFCs and Skyfishers to pick them up when you play them as lands?
Oh God.
Can we make this card an uncommon like it deserves to be, please? Pretty please. Okay, so that's gonna do it. Thanks as always to the listeners. Thank you to Daneelius for joining us for this.
You're welcome.
Teld, obviously you're always here with me as it is, so thanks for being here. And again, to the listener, if there are specific kinds of tier lists towards Peasant Cube, or maybe even higher level cubes that Teld and I could discuss, like let us know in the comments on this YouTube video. Let us know if you want to see any changes to the way we're going to do tier lists. But we enjoyed doing this. We got some good feedback on the core Skyfisher one, so feels like the type of thing we'll try to throw together when we have the time to do it. So as always,
just I saw on the most recent draft review video that people were really there was some excitement for us to rank cards by power level. So I'm going to badger Tim about starting to do the tier list for the mainline cube again.
Yes, mainline list. The concern with that is the just the sheer amount of time it takes to upload the card images for 360 cards or whatever across 5-6 different tier lists. So it is fun to do if you have the time to record, and then you go on these rambly tangents like I'm doing right now about every single card. It ends up being an hour and a half per color. It's just like, oh my god, what am I doing with my life? But thanks to the listener, and we'll catch you all next time.